This hardware lesson is about one thing and one thing only: SSDs versus rotational hard disks. I'll explain why it matters. I'll talk about your upgrade options, if any, and some things to consider for your next Mac purchase. Have you heard the news? Using a rotational hard drive, an old school hard drive as the boot disk, sucks eggs. A solid state drive is faster in every way, which is why Apple has pretty much replaced hard drives with solid state drives in almost all Macs. A solid state drive has no moving parts. It stores everything on ultra-fast memory chips. A hard disk, on the other hand, has lots of moving parts, and some of them spin at 5,000 revolutions per minute or more. Other parts float micrometers away from that spinning disk. Needless to say, an SSD is more reliable and less prone to failure, particularly from movement or shock. Now, an SSD is also faster for everything, especially booting and rebooting, but also for opening applications, opening documents, copying files, even emptying the trash. All those things 3, 5, 10 times faster with an SSD. SSDs are expensive, so there's a middle ground, a combination solid-state hard disk. Apple calls theirs a fusion drive. Others call them hybrids, or SSD plus HDD. These types of drives, they combine a smaller SSD with a large hard drive, and onboard intelligence that optimizes what's stored where. The downside of SSDs is that they're really expensive compared to hard disks or even hybrids. For example, here are some prices for a 1 terabyte drive upgrade for a 2015 MacBook Pro from Otherworld Computing, which is where I buy most of my upgrades. The bottom line is that if you can't afford a big SSD, a fusion or hybrid drive is probably your best bet for your boot disk. Note that those prices are for illustration purposes only. They're from last month. They're from July 2017. But by the time you look at this, they could have dropped because that's what prices do. But even if the prices drop a lot, the point I'm trying to make is that SSDs are always going to cost more than a hard disk or a hybrid. So if you don't already have an SSD in your Mac and your Mac isn't ready for replacement, consider upgrading your hard drive to an SSD. Now, the 1 terabyte examples I used are kind of the extreme. A 512 or smaller SSD might be exactly what you need. Here's some prices for Otherworld Computing SSD upgrades available today in July 2017. By the way, I recommend Otherworld Computing for both memory and storage upgrades. They know Macs better than most vendors, and you're more likely to receive the exact thing that you need that's going to work with your Mac. Amazon's sometimes cheaper, but I trust OWC to send me the right parts a lot more. Also, many of OWC's upgrade kits include an external enclosure, so you can continue using the hard drive after you've removed it. Other OWC upgrade kits let you remove your super drive if you've got one of those DVD-ROM drives, and replace it with your previous hard drive inside your iMac. Finally, OWC has illustrated instructions and videos that are really good and almost as good as iFixit's free repair guides, which I also always download when I'm doing an upgrade. Okay, I can't remember the last time I ordered an SSD or RAM from anybody else. Now, for those of you considering a new Mac, these days almost every model has an SSD. Some can be ordered with either SSD or Fusion, and I think you may be able to still buy a Mac Mini with an old school hard disk. But my advice to you is when you're buying a new Mac, get the biggest SSD you can afford. If you can't afford an SSD in the size you need, get the biggest Fusion or hybrid you can afford. You're going to lose a bit of speed with the hybrid, but it's much faster than a plain old hard disk. And that's all I got.